So I'm done working on this right side rocker as far as getting it all fit up. I just got done priming the back side of it. But if it's put together, shaped up, and the closure's already on the other end. So it's ready to go on once this is dried. Tomorrow maybe, hopefully. We'll glue that side on. And then we'll weld up the ends of the rockers and finish up a little bit of doodads here and there on this side of the car. Already finished up a few things. Got the bottom of the door welded up. Finished up this little corner over here. This section over here. And like I said, I got the bottom of the door welded up and cleaned up. And so it's time for that rocker to go on. But in the meantime, I pulled off the front bumper and the fenders. And I was trying to take a look at a better way to get this stuff a little bit more rigid. Right now you can see it's got a lot of flex to it because it's just attached to this forward radiator core support, the extra one. This is the one from the Magnum that I put on, and then this one projects out ahead. This is from the this is for the that carries the headlights on the Challenger. So very little difference between them except for what carries the headlights. But anyway, I needed to extend it out. This setup here, it's not going to be sufficient to keep this all from wobbling around. So what I did on this side is made a more substantial piece that ties right into this upper frame member up on the top side here. And so it's quite a bit. I gusseted it over here, went back over, re-welded a lot of the stuff, took it off the car, and eliminated a lot of the material that was unnecessary to be there from the core support there around the Magnum headlights. It was just in my way of getting access to this whole situation here. So now this is attached to this, which is a whole lot stronger than being projected out and with a bunch of stobs and wacky looking stuff there. So I'm a whole lot happier with how strong that is. That's not going anywhere now. So got to do that on the other side too. But like I said, when I was doing mocking up the front end, there was a lot of stuff I was just tack welding in, and with the idea of going back and welding it up solid when I pulled it all off the car. But at a certain point, you know, you kind of know what you're going to do, so you need to get back in there, pull everything off, and start making this stuff a little bit more solid, because of the fact that when you're doing body lines and gaps, if you've got stuff that's moving around, you're really wasting your time to get too detailed with that stuff, because you know, it's not going to be predictable where it's going to land the next time you install it if everything you have here is flimsy. So just by way of trying to strengthen it up, I've done this, and I'll repeat it on the other side. So I needed a bit of ABS plastic to do the wheel tub extensions, and you know, I researched it a little bit, and you know, a 4x8 sheet of ABS plastic is somewhere around $100 for a 3/32 stick, which is what I needed. That wasn't too much of the issue, the cost. It's the inconvenience of trying to get a hold of it under the situation we currently have. It's down in the city, and so a little bit of a hassle to get to the location where the plastic distributor is. So I was trying to look for some substitutes, and here's a trash can made out of ABS plastic that it'll suit my needs, I think. We'll see. I'm going to cut this out, which is the pattern that I took to extend the wheel tub, the rubber piece of the wheel tub, that is, the stone guard, so to speak. So it's just an alternative. Might have a little issue with this little step area here. I was looking for a trash can that was completely clean, but they always put these depressions in to kind of strengthen up the mold of the can. So anyway, if it doesn't work, I know where I can get a full sheet of the stuff, and we'll move on from there. Okay, that worked out pretty decent. I just wrapped the pattern around the long ways, sideways, I should say, horizontally around the can, so I could get enough length to do it all in one piece. And that's about 50 or 60 inches worth of material. And you should use this map gas torch to just flash it and kind of relax it out and get rid of some of the shape that was in it. So if you need to get a small amount of ABS plastic, do some small project with, there's a whole trash can's worth right there for about 30 bucks. It's a little bit thinner than the what I was after. It's probably about it's probably about 1/16 of an inch as opposed to 3/32, which is what I was after. But it'll definitely do the job for what I'm trying to accomplish here. So it's worth noting that this thermoplastic has the ability to be cold formed a little bit here. I just put this in the sheet metal brake and got some bends here where it has to change direction to comply with the existing inner rubber stone guard. So that's a pretty good thing to know, that you can get little bends and so forth with this stuff relatively easily without having to heat it up. So just put it in the sheet metal brake just like you would a piece of sheet metal, and of course it doesn't hold a hard edge. This is not going to be 90 degrees, but it does give you a nice crisp bend, so you can work it around wherever you have to work it around. So just to show you before I start to attach it, this is it's kind of hard to see because everything's black in here, so you can see the extension that I made out of the ABS plastic, trying to complete the inner. You can see the rubber inner tub here, and where it ends right about here, and this edge has been folded up to try to create more tire clearance in this area. This kicks back out just to conform to what's here on this rubber tub, and also on this side it had to kick in a little bit here also. And I'm just gonna mechanically fix this with some pop rivets and some backup washers, and that'll be pretty much it. But that'll rubberize everything out to the metal here. And now I'm just going to put a bed liner material, just apply some paint on bed liner to this part of the metal here, which this is a double layer thick, if you'll remember. This is not the actual inside of the quarter panel. This is an actual inner steel fender, or steel inner quarter panel. But I'll just put that black bed liner on there to just create a little bit of protection for this area here. It's a little tough to see this stuff in here. It's like working in a cave. See, that's what it looks like with the lights out. So here's what the wheel tub inner stone guard extension looks like, riveted into place and out of the car. What I'll do after this is I'll tape this off, and then I'll run a bead of silicone along this inner edge over here, and that'll seal up the two halves and keep garbage from accumulating in there. You can see that I just used aluminum pop rivets and these aluminum backup washers, so that I'm not a big fan of aluminum pop rivets. They tend to rattle loose when they're used in metal, but in this application, where I don't want them to rust or corrode, also the fact that it's in a pliable material, so like when you put this through two pieces of aluminum, if it's an aluminum rivet, what happens is it vibrates until it loosens up in the hole, and causes a lot of chatter. But this is it's a very pillowy material, so that when you pull it, it's like cushioned, so you won't get that same issue with aluminum rivets in this plastic. Anyway, that's where I am with this. Of course, I'll have to rinse and repeat back on this side over here. While I'm at it, I'll show you what else has progressed here. So this rocker's on, and we are welded up on this side and glued up. So I just want to take care of all these loose ends before I move on to anything more exciting, that being the front fenders and the front end again, which it's been, I don't know, it's probably been a year and a half since I was on the front end of this car. At any rate, whenever I walk past loose ends, they nag at me. So I've got to finish up these inner wheel wells and have them done, so I don't have to think about them anymore. And then I could free up my mind to do what's going to turn out to be a little bit of a complicated task up there. I'm probably going to redo a lot of the stuff that I've already done. Probably just going to use this hood support that I made as a buck to make the skin. While this worked pretty good on my Charger as far as using this type of a system for framing underneath, I'm not really happy with the way this all looks on the bottom side. I'm going to come up with something a little bit better than this. But in the meantime, it'll dictate the shape of the top skin. I'll build the top skin, and then I'll build a cradle for it, similar to the one that I had over there for my Charger hood, and so that I can transfer the hood skin upside down onto that, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do as far as an inner liner from that point on. But that is way out in the future. That's just the direction I'm taking with this thing. Just thought I'd let you know about that. Okay, I don't know if I went over this already, but I'll just go over it one more time if I haven't. This inner fender tub usually affixes with some one-way clips. They're plastic clips that just push through here, and then they go through holes in the frame. And there's 4 here. There's one right there, and then there's one up at the top, and normally there's one in the back, but this one here has had to be eliminated by my extensions. So, like I said, they're one-way plastic clips, and they fit into these frame holes. So what I have to do now in order to be able to do what I'm doing and install them, disinstall them, is to change them over to a threaded insert. So what I have is this, I mean, there's plenty of brands, but this one here happens to be a German gun called Gasipa fasteners, and they've been around for years. And it's sort of like a pop rivet gun. And what it does is when you clamp down on it like this threaded insert will mushroom on the back side until it cinches up on the inside there against the frame in the hole. So it acts like like I said, it acts like a pop rivet in a sort. It doesn't pop, but you have to unthread it when you get it cinched up and it's tight. These are aluminum. There's different manufacturers that make steel ones, and there's much larger guns that require both arms to cinch the threaded insert in, but it's pretty handy. So what I'm ending up doing here is I'm using 1/4-20s, little nuts, or excuse me, little bolts with washers on them, fender washers, to replace those plastic clips that normally would go in those locations, and this way I can take it in and out as needed. I find this would be good just even for any street car to do this. If you have one of these and you do your own servicing of your brakes or shocks or anything like that, you need to get back behind that rubber to any areas here where the fuel line is or anything like that. You have to take those rubber inners out, and if that's the case, you have to go find some more of those plastic clips, because they're ruined once you take them out for the first time, and then you have to replace them. Anyway, just thought I would show you how that was done. Okay, in between jumping up and down off the floor, dealing with those inner wheel tubs, I'm working on getting this other side stiffened up. I've got this leg on now, and this has all been trued up. The one that was the way it was on there before. See this little tab over here on this headlight? Well, this was swung out probably almost to the end here, so I went ahead and did what I needed to do to make the corrections so that it matches this side. So you can see this tab is just exposed, the center part, and then to this. And that's little things like that you know, if you try to chase them down early on, you know, when you make a mistake, if you stack another thing on top of it and it has a little flaw in it, by the time you get done, you've got 10 layers of things that you know, add up to a big flaw. So if you can catch something at the bottom, at the foundation, so to speak, when you're starting this stuff, and correct it before it gets too far along, it helps, because as you go, you know, things are going to kind of get out of control a little bit. It's just the nature of the beast. But if you can try to dial each level of the construction in as you go, it's a bit helpful. So with that in mind, I went ahead and made sure that this matched the other side. I did a little bit of grinding on the tops of these to fit the bumper, because it fits on there easily without you know, any forcing anything. If anything is forced or loaded, it's going to give you problems down the road. So it's always good to make sure you've got all the clearances that you need. Don't just go on and say I'll deal with it later. That usually ends up in you forgetting, or at least I do, forgetting that issue, and then somewhere down the line it comes back to bite you. So with that in mind, I took there's a structure that I had been building and to support both the lower valance and the bumper itself, and I went ahead, took the bumper back off again, and took this structure off, which you can see I'd cut it a number of times, pieced it back in, tacked it. There's things that have been tacked to it. Some things are out of level. There's openings at the top. Some of this is incomplete down here. It was all because I was trying to get these panels and try to get them into the neighborhood of where I wanted them to be. Once I visually was okay with where everything was going to be, I could commit to this structure and the geometry of it. So with that in mind, I'm starting to you know, tighten this up, replace some of these components, and weld up some of these things, cap things off, grind any burrs or anything that's sticking out, and just kind of neaten it up in general, because this is where it's going to live. So I'll be good to go. Now I got to do this side over here, clean this up, and put this together like that, and we'll be on our way. I went ahead and put this wheel tub, plastic wheel tub, in. It's just one little difference between the Magnum and the Challenger I found out is there's an area right down in here where the fuel filler comes in. For some reason or other, the fuel filler must be slightly different where it's located on the Magnum, because I had to cut away some material here because it was the fuel filler. The fuel tube was pushing this bottom piece out. But other than that, you can see that it fits right back in there. And I'll have to go in here and do my filler like I did on the other side. I was going to put the other side in and leave it in and be done with it, but then I realized, you know, even though this is all you know, new rotors here and there's new shoes on here, I'm going to change these over to the Brembos, so it doesn't make any sense for me I'm going to have to take these back out, so I just put it up on the shelf. But for all intents and purposes, the other side is complete, and it's ready for its final install when all the paint is done, and or the suspension is done, whichever comes first. We'll figure that out. I'm not too anxious to, after having torn all the suspension apart, cleaned it all up, put new components in, and then coming across that set of Brembos and knowing that I have to replace that hub on both sides, which requires me to take all the arms apart and disconnect the emergency brake cable, brake lines, all that good stuff. And then over here, there's a different spindle that has to be installed. So again, after having completely taken that spindle apart, painted it, refurbished the whole thing, and having the suspension look really nice. It's one of those things where, you know, I'd be half tempted to say, just leave it. But, you know, every time I come over here and I walk past these big brake calipers and I look at the dinky ones that are on there right now, I just got to tell you, I can't let these just stay. I'm gonna have to, you know how it is. Anyway, that's what I'm up to at this point.